There's no music playing. A little bit of pizza. It's all. No, I'm just kidding. Got a beat in my head. And new, or newish, 3 weeks new. The Pitbull Daddy Yankee song. I was thinking of putting up a maybe a filter on my video here. It's color correction. Oh, that's too bright. Let's see. Go back to defaults. Now do it. And then I just want to pump up the color. We'll do what, like 10%. That's a lot. We'll do 20%. 25. 10. Contrast, pump that up. 20. That will show my any imperfections even more. Brightness. I don't like to fuck with that. Anyways, probably white balance. That looks pretty white. Anyways, I was taking photos, business photos, whatever, and it says starts out, with your ISO, your light, whatever, the technology they use to, adjust light and everything, as 50, like 100, 160. But you put on automatic, it's like a couple thousand and shit like that. And it's all done like algorithmically, but it creates so much noise and shit like that. And so I was just like, man, they were good photos, but they adjust everything else. So let me do it myself. So I put all these like bright lights and everything like that, right? And I got it down to like, I was like, okay. It was when I'm streaming, I don't have really bright lights, and I was like, I got it down to like 1200. I was happy, right? And I got it down to maybe even 800 sometimes. And now I know to get a lot of lights. And then I was, got the ring light and everything. I don't have a ring light right now. I'm gonna have it in the other room, but it's pretty bright. Okay, I'm unzipped here. All right, I'm good. Anyways, and so I got it down to 50. My point. Now that I interrupted myself. I actually distracted myself. I did 160, and I stopped to 2.8. Then I did 3.4, 4.0 at 100, and then I was just like fucking 5 at 50, right? I was like, well, everything's not gonna be as clear as like 2.8, and 2.8 is like a little bit more clear. And I just sort of realized, no one really is gonna see that in that, little small little photo on a business card or whatever, if I have one or two. On this little thing, that big, right? I know it has to be really, really good. Um, but I was just like, this is too blurry, but I need something like really high clarity. And so I was just like, color and that kind of thing, the subtleties people notice, whatever. So I was just like, let everything being focused and light noise and that kind of thing. And so it'd be like go F, 5.0, and then just get down to like 50. And so it took me like 2 days to figure that out. And by that time, I already figured out like the right pose and shit like that. You know, whatever, and it's good. And then, I put it into Photoshop, and the raw camera, the raw fucking file wouldn't, be edited and shit like that. Like, because I use Adobe Creative Suite 6 Master Collection, and it's like, oh, back in the days, like, oh, you got Master Collection. And I'm like, well, yeah, got Master Collection, but it's like 10 years older, right? And then you put the raw plug in, but that only handles cameras up to then. So my lens and my camera is only like last year, so I didn't update it. So I was just like, okay, well it's not compatible with my camera or whatever. So how can I adjust this raw photo, right? And so I was like stuck for a minute, like how do I do that? And I was like, fuck. So I had to convert it to digital negative, uh, digital negative, something digital negative, and then I downgraded, um, just a little bit of, quality, whatever. Past like 10 megapixels, your eye can't discern that. You know what I mean? It's just like you just can't. I don't give a fuck who you are. You know what I'm talking about? There's no way, unless you have like a 50,000 monitor on 8K or whatever, and then still maybe if you have an eye for that, then you can. You know what I'm saying? You just can't. So it's like okay, I did a little downgrading and then put it to a compatible raw negative that I could edit in Photoshop for mine. And so yeah, so I was edited it real quick, whatever. I was trying to fuck with everything. And I just made an alpha layer, popped the colors a little bit and called it a day. Anyway, Easter. Bunny says happy Easter. This came like two of them, but like there's some gold missing right here, so I had to send it back. Anyways, but I can't mic it because this overheats this metal thing. Touch it. Anyways, so I should have read my notes. I'm gonna read them now. Get to the point, and then I'm good. Okay, that makes sense. What I wrote makes sense. Okay, let's see why I said that. I don't know. Everybody's doing social experiments. I think it's time for me like to do one that's a good one, build people and societies. Like like how when you grow up people was like you treat someone like this, they'll act like that. So I know the personality, growing up in like Seaside it was based on an ego that was unsustainable because it was just getting incarcerated, but it's out there meeting a lot of people and everything. But I know if you take all the bad stuff away, it's meeting people, it's engaging with people, talking to people. And so I know like being in real estate, that's what you gotta do. So it's for a good reason. Um, so you want to treat people, bring out that best, like that thing, what I'm talking about? And then my shit's a little bit on, got a cold storage, so it's a little bit off. Like when I'm about to ask, it's just like social experiment. You nudge it sort of where it's supposed to go, what I'm talking about. So gradually that becomes me and who I am, I'm talking about. Like a little guiding like light or whatever, you know what I mean? So that kind of thing. Might not be there, but I will get there. bring that out, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm just gradually building up everything, you know. So that's probably my ask, you know. I don't need people to throw down a bag of money or some shit, you know what I'm saying? Whatever that was going on in this war, you know. But, you know, how like Native Americans say, you know, you don't want to give them food, you want to teach them how to grow food, you know. The right thing, sustainable stuff, positivity. As you can see, it's so easy to destroy seconds, but it's very difficult to build something back up, you know. A lot more effort, a lot more time, a lot more skill. But we juxtapose both of those, and it's not the case. You know, destroy, interrupt, or whatever. And then, you know, we demagoguery state that's, you know, the best thing to do, or that's strength or whatever. It's weakness. Strength is making sure everybody gets built and the world gets built in a sustainable way. It takes more brain work, and preventing other people from destroying what you're building. Firmly, don't get me wrong, but um, a skill, you know, life, the environment, structures. Oh, I see, I see. I know what it I see, I see. Okay. There's more notes, but I'll just as I go along. Anyway, so I'm glad they updated this. This is a GIF over here. It stayed on 4 days for the longest damn time. I didn't want to post anything because my hair wasn't done. I was just like embarrassed. No, I don't get embarrassed. For all intents and purposes, a little bit, I don't really get embarrassed. I'm not really affected by social stuff, you know. Oh, it's just that I think, honestly, I'll get to the point. Um, Whatever's happening in Russia is not all that brilliant. Um, it's kind of apparent now that, you know, the gaslighting and everything else like that, that he doesn't really expect to fool a lot of people, but on the average, it does diminish the readiness of who he's drawn against to some degree. So let's see if he attacks on Easter, which I'm pretty sure it's going to be in the next couple of days. It's just the pattern that I see. You know, so I don't want to be like, oh, I'm inside Pune's mind or whatever, but maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just stating, you know, but it's kind of, I don't know. I guess some kind of four-star general, whatever general, be like, oh yeah, it's a good chance, a probability of the renewed attack coming on the holidays, you know. But this is where I put my money. I don't bet, but this is where I bet. All right, you know, this is when it starts, if it starts. You know what I'm talking about. But it, even if you decrease their readiness just a little bit, or you know they're distracted a little bit, even though you know they're not going to be totally looking the other way, it still gives you a little bit of advantage. You know, you could sneak in there with like whatever amount. It's just how it is offensive or whatever. But I just want to start out, you know, with that, why, you know, everything I'm going to say is probably time sensitive. And as soon as I stated, other things are going to start into motion that are going to, you know, adjust to what I state. So it's Ukrainians and Ukraine really and us really need to do what we need to do now so it gets in the best thing. What is it going to state? Okay. See what he said. I'm not sure I get that in there. I mean, it's like one of the things out here, that it's I don't know. You always try to make lemonade out of lemons, whatever. And mainland people are a lot more assertive, um, and so you get a lot of better personalities out there that succeed and everything. But here it's a lot more passive aggressive. It's very gaslighty over here. But I grew up in that, so I know how to keep it at arm's distance, and I don't try to get involved in any of that gaslight. But that same thing that makes it so passive aggressive and gaslighty is what makes it so nonviolent out here. So I'm able just to relax and be calm, talk about and keep all that negative stuff away from me or whatever. Mainland, reality smacks you in the face and it gets very violent very quickly. So the good with the bad. So I got to use my time wisely, let it fire under my butt, get this broker license done with, some reading, studying, everything. So, but I guess if you know gaslight, keep it away. But it takes a different type of person. But now it's like a lot of people got desensitized to gaslighting. So I guess when people come over here, just shrug it off or whatever. I mean, a lot of people now could do that. I guess 10 years ago, no, it's like, talking about. But, it does have a effect, but it's why what Putin's doing, everybody just like could see through it. So, but it's still being utilized. It's not all that brilliant. But people are saying it's brilliant, but it's part of the gaslight. You see people dying, and I think that's part of the issue because everybody's just like they want to state, and we get into this sort of this echo chamber. Well, Putin doesn't have enough information because they're afraid to tell him, and yeah, that's definitely truth, significantly the truth. I mean, it's a truth. I mean, how much did that significantly affect him? I mean, how much does that affect him significantly? But you can't like guarantee that everything he receives is inaccurate. You know what I mean? It's just like on average, his information will be intermixed with inaccurate things, and over time they'll build up, and there'll always be key bits of information will come to our benefit. We don't know exactly what that is, but if you build an environment where you get very accurate information, doesn't mean we'll always make the best decision, but we have the environment to make the best decision. So that'll add up. We're only human, so it's just like, well, it's not like he wants bad information. You're going to try to repair that problem as much as possible. But still, at the end of the day, it's not the environment where he gets the best information. But to say specifically, well, you won't know exactly this or that, or whatever. There's just no way to tell that. Say it's just, you know, um, hubris to be like that. So, but I'm just saying this. That's my current thinking about that. Is it inaccurate? Yeah, but is it everything? No. And so a lot of those issues are going to be like resolved. So I wouldn't really, count on it other than, it's something that, that we, it tips the scales into our favor, talk about. But, when you go to someone who's at the head of the military making decisions like Hitler, moving around stuff that doesn't exist, obviously, it's to our advantage. Was it Ninth Army? You thought it was going to relieve Berlin. There's like nothing with the Ninth Army. It's just whatever. Anyways. Okay, so I'll start with the drink. Where do I want to start? What is more relevant? I'll just choose some place that will bounce around a little bit. Something that I think I just wrote down since it's in my head. You know, we needed a Defense Production Act, you know, COVID or whatever. This whole thing about what Trump did is just, you know, very, you know, makes your pupils dilate, a lot of it, you know. And so leading up to this war, like, you know, we had a Defense Production Act, this and that. And now it's just like after war, we're getting ready for war. You know, getting our mindset for war, this war, you know. And I initially stated like there would be a second part to this war, would be that the hammer to fall. I know no, the next hammer to fall would be China being involved, but you know, I just want to state that up front. But this Defense Production Act, we should actually utilize that in some manner or form. I know it's getting uh, the, the whole would Smiley Butler said about, you know, our industrial war complex, you know, but it's not like we chose this. It is already chosen for us. And so all of our old 50-year-old equipment should just be sent over there, you know. They're fighting on T-72s, the year that was made, 72, right? It's 50 years old, you know, so whatever could front 50-year-old equipment, send it over, you know. So Bradley fighting vehicles, that kind of thing. Because you need force multipliers of infantry and Vulcan cannons that are on top of those, and everybody says like, you know, those that's as good as a tank basically. It's first shot capability. I mean, I'm gonna say capability, but if you get first shot with Vulcan cannon on tank, it's done. You know, that's what's in a Warthog. So, and any other kind of cannon, 30 caliber, I guess you get 20 caliber too also. So this Hummers and all that stuff, and then you just backfill that with our more advanced stuff, because you don't want to give our most advanced stuff and have that be captured. You have stuff they already know about, you know, and you just outproduce them, you know. It's probably the best thing. And these are simpler things. Like the thing about like grenade launchers and that type of thing, rolled equipment, they're not electronical. They're just easy to use, easy to pick up. So it's just a lot more. You don't really need this high tech stuff. You just need something there and push it forward. So that's what I think we should definitely do with it, especially with these switchblades. I'm not a fan of them, only because they're single use. So we should basically, this is one thing about technology that we should give everything, because we don't know how they're going to be used until we use them. If they're single use, there's no way to really see how we're going to use switchblade um, drones until they're utilized. So we have them all in reserve. We never realize how they actually work in combat. So honestly, we should be having uh, drones that are reusable. That's my current thing. So just all the switchblade, just hand them over. I mean, we got to figure out how they're going to be used anyways, and the tactics. So you know, just 100, shit, send 1,000. You know what I'm talking about, like 10,000 for all. Because what's going to happen is they're going to come over, and every second that a tank is in service is the dangerous they are. Every day, you know, every week, so they got to be taken out early. And then we could adjust and find out how these switchblade drones actually could be utilized in combat and make improvements upon it. Because there's just no way to have a single-use drone and be like, this is going to work. It just doesn't make any kind of rational sense to me, you know? I mean, maybe we'll affect it in a couple of generations down, but in the process, we're just stating that we know how they're used. You know, it's just, and then we're building on the assumptions on top of another assumption on top of another assumption, And then we have a fourth generation of a single-use drone. We're like, okay, well, this is going to help us. And we don't know that. So my thinking is just, what's the point? And those things have a shelf life, everything, and they're great anyway. So that's my personal thing. Everything else, um, sounds like 100. I don't know. It's my personal thought. The ship that went down, and I have a note here. There's about 30 ships in the Black Sea. 2 to seriously wound and sink it. I'm thinking 3 to a ship, right? So we need 100 anti-ship missiles. One might go wherever. And if 100 anti-ship missiles don't sink the fleet, less than more, right? Because you don't know if they're going to be at the correct place and time. Because the whole thing is like, once you do it, it sort of gives, you already show your hand or whatever, obviously. So what you have to do is attack them all at the same time with some tactic and almost in sequence, whatever. So they can't adjust to it. You can't go after one and the other. You need to boom and then attack. And the best time to attack is actually as soon as the next stage of this assault is happening, right? Because if you attack now, they don't adjust and delay the attack or whatever. You don't. But if they're attacking, they already got shit stuff already, in motion, and you disrupted them. You know what I'm talking about? Just you're destroying them actually. And now what they were going to put into the battle is not there. You know what I'm saying? And they're already committed. They already put a significant force forward. You could cut it off. So in the very early stages of, once you're undoubtedly sure that the next phase of the attack is happening, the onslaught, that's when I would take as many ships as possible out before they know what your tactic is, whatever that new tactic for taking out ships with the anti-ship missiles, And that being said, that is when you want to conduct all your raids, because that's going to be your time where you have the most territory of the Ukraine, so you could go the furthest, into wherever you need to go into, Russia or into occupied territory. Once you absolutely sure that it's underway, you want to make that happening. All the raids you had planned. That's when you want to take out the fuel. That's when you want to take out any kind of like bottlenecks of like standing equipment, well not bottlenecks, but clusters of equipment and everything else like that, bridges and everything. Because now, instead of adjusting and delaying the attack, they're forced to actually go through with attack. It's already pushed forward. And now if they gain that territory through the attack, you don't have that land. You gotta go further to do those raids and those preventive measures to do those attacks. So as soon as you're sure that this onslaught is underway, is that's when you want to start do your last raiding, wherever that needs to be, wherever you have. I would take that risk and do it then. You know what I'm talking about? Because it will pay off dividends later on. Because every second that a tank or an heavy equipment is not in combat benefits you, because you saw like that one Ukrainian tank was taking out that whole column. Boom, boom, boom. Every second he was up, he was destroying shit. And if you times that by every tank the Russians have, think about it. And that's why, I'm a very proponent of, when this onslaught happens, is being ultra aggressive in the very beginning stages of it. Take as much equipment out as possible. All the switchblades should be utilized, as many anti-tank missiles as possible. um, destroyed initially, and pull back your own tanks, right? Because granted, those tanks will do more damage or whatever, but you don't know exactly what tactics they're going to use, and you could unnecessarily waste a lot of tanks and armor personnel things. Granted, you'll kill more, whatever, but in that beginning battle, you got to figure out how this new assault is actually going to play out. So I would hold them back in the second line or even third line and let the infantry and a smattering of heavy equipment, a few here, whatever, so you can adjust and work with what you have. And you got to play for the worst case scenario and have that in the rear a little bit, and have that adjust to wherever it's coming from. Wherever wherever the attack's coming from, whatever you could adjust that more equipment. So you have the infantry absorb that, take as many tanks, and what's working now, and you see if you could still do it, is taking that equipment back into the rear, war tanks, I mean, if it's not broken, you don't want to fix it, but they might adjust. So you need to adjust how much do they adjust, how much do they learn, and all that other stuff. But that's the whole thing. So if you put all your equipment up front, forward, it's going to be all taken out. When you can pull it back and give up some land, absorb that blow, and be able to take out more equipment with infantry. And it sucks, whatever, because you need to say give up land or whatever to figure out what is their new capability, but you're saving equipment. And it's something I wouldn't have stated, a year ago or 6 months ago, but you gotta, because you want to be able to like checkmate people and not cause damage and you don't, I would say, pain or death, whatever. But unfortunately, you need to make sacrifices now, be ultra aggressive, and take as much stuff to the rear, so you have that equipment for the counter attack. And I'm pretty sure it's going to come after this main attack. They're going to work themselves out, attack themselves out, and then there's going to be a counterattack. That's my current thinking. But you have to ensure that happens. So all that other equipment also that they're sending in, like those big ass cranes and stuff like that. Well, they're not. Well, they're sending a bulldozer, up armored bulldozer, and that kind of thing. Also, so, but they need more of those that could just pull that equipment back, because they could basically rebuild all the stuff you are capturing. That's what they're doing, right? And so you just keep holding it out as fast as it comes in, and rebuilding it. And everything that they get, anything the Ukrainians get, they got to sacrifice one. Like, say if you got an up armored bulldozer, an up armored, excavator, right? How many excavators you got? I'm gonna assume not a lot, but so one you have in the rear, and you sacrifice that one, and you tell the U.S. or Germans or English, leave the manual in there. I'm talking about. So now, so you have that one. You don't put that forward. You got this excavator. You have this mine layer. You have this whatever. Because you only have a few of them, and you rip it apart. You got the manual there, so you set that off to the side, and call in metal workers or whatever. Be like, hey, can you build this part, that part, and then you could now, the one you sacrificed, now you can build it. You got to think in the long term. So you don't know how long this is going to last. So now you have that one that you could rebuild. What I'm talking about? So you got to do. So every one that comes in, you got to sacrifice one, pull it off the side, and that's the one you pull apart and put back together and deconstruct it or whatever. And everything else go to the rear. So that's my thinking. Because some of these things are just like, I ain't never seen them before in my life. It's like, what the fuck is that shit? It's like, probably need more of them. It's just like, he's gonna have to be digging trenches and shit, and people are gonna be firing at you and shit like that, and holding up equipment, and you don't know if it's safe and shit like that because the lines are gonna be all fucked up. The battle lines. You don't know what's safe and what's not. It's my thinking. Everything like in that southern region, right above where this key of the map is, that's all mountainous. That should all be like where mines are and be tunneled down building like factories, you know? I mean, there's stuff that are built during the times of war that still stand today. Um, Aqueducts and roads, you know, the Masada, that ramp going up, you know, this, well, it took a little bit more than days, whatever, but it was built in the course of, you know, of battles or whatever, to stand the test of time. And my point is that you could get this shit done, and then, yeah, there's other like started tunnels that were made in like England and everything that are just put up real quickly in times where they're about to be invaded and stuff like that, you know, for aquifers and stuff like that. Um, anyways, that so if you, my point is that what the Swiss did and hollow out a lot of those mountains, that's where your factories are going to be. So they could take a direct hit, whatever, and still be able to produce equipment or whatever, you know. One does tanks, and one does MiGs, and all the other supporting equipment and stuff like that. So that's what I would do. You know what I'm saying? That's fine. You got to think short term, long term. You get into logistics, then you start building it. But I think the key thing is being ultra aggressive, take as many tanks out in the beginning as possible, and heavy equipment as possible. You know, that's where you got to make the sacrifice, because every day it's up, it's gonna cause more damage. You know what I'm talking about? So the best time to raid across the border is now, my thinking. I'm pretty sure it's imminent around Easter Sunday. Bridges, fuel, obviously, massive vehicles and other heavy equipment. And I think this onslaught is more like a lava flow. I'm hesitantly stating that it's my thinking. I don't think it's going to be any kind of like blitzkrieg or whatever. I think it's going to be this slow advance. Oh, like this slow, you know how like lava, most eruptions, not like Mount St. Helena, not a pyroclastic flow type thing, but a slow thing of like this, you know, I'm talking about this moving forward, inevitably, you know, trading down or whatever. And that's how I think this onslaugh's going to happen. It's going to move forward, you know what I'm talking about? So you got to give, destroy, destroy, and have more force multipliers or whatever until you're ready. And you did enough damage, you get to fight back, whatever. And so your eruption needs to be more violent and aggressive. The Ukrainians' eruption, if it's slow, whatever. So you get more aggressive. So what's going to stop a lava flow? You could have fire hose and brick wall or whatever. What's really going to stop it? It's another um, natural natural force. You know, big ass a cannon, the sea. You know, or another eruption. You know, so you got to beat that um, naturalistic force being more violent. You know, you see it coming, so you know it's violent. You got to be more violent, more aggressive, smartly going after the heavy equipment. You know, early on, taking it out and not having your equipment being destroyed in the process. So that problem needs to be figured out. Attacking more of their equipment with infantry, and that's where I have the problem, because you're sacrificing more infantry than you would with more heavy equipment up there. But tell them the truth. Yes, it's more dangerous without heavier equipment up here, but we need to destroy more of their tanks and save our equipment. And we need you to grab that equipment back into the rear, you know? And you get to tell the truth to your infantry. This is why we're doing this. Because we need to preserve our equipment as much as possible and steal as much as equipment from them and absorb the blow and figure out exactly what's coming at us in this next stage. You know, well, they have to lie and constrict and empty out the prisons and whatever the fuck they're doing, picking up people. Because I'm pretty sure they're using this to purge their population Russian population of undesirables, whatever. It's what civilizations do every so often. It's what Russia did, what China did. Whenever the population increases, um, to decrease the population is throw it at a meat grinder. They lost 10 million in the war, and maybe like I don't know. I'm gonna throw out a number. I'm not exactly sure. Is it 50 million people? 50 million people died in World War II. Say 30 million Russians died. So I'm just saying, it's just like if the people are not contributing to their ideology and to the Russia they want, the send of the war or whatever, these people don't any better or whatever. I mean, they're going to be probably forced conscripted. Being forced conscripted into it. Don't get me wrong. Like everybody's just like they don't want to be there and all that other stuff. But a lot of them do. A lot of them are into that. Russian Nazism and conquering and defeating their neighbors and controlling them and enslaving them and everything. They buy into that. Here they are. Telling other people what to do and everything. And that mentality. And so to say like they all didn't know what they're doing, and well, a lot of them, yeah, significantly a lot of them. Again, I'm saying some kind of very vague, assertion about how much really know what's going on, but a lot of them do play into Russia's center is this Russian centric type of view. Same thing with you see it in China and Japan, the China centric, the Japan centric, that they're the master race, whatever, and everybody else who's not Chinese, everybody's not Japanese is the Untermenschen or whatever. So same thing with the Russians. Everybody who's not specifically a Russian Slavic is an Untermenschen, is a subrace, is an underrace. So they play into that. So to say that everybody else is just doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah, there are a lot of people. But otherwise you wouldn't see like cluster bombs written for the people on it. They know it's for the people. They know it's for the children. They knew that to be sadistic. I'm talking about. So I guess some of the psychological ops, and be like, this is bad or whatever, or playing into Russians, moms, and everything. Yeah, and that will definitely have a cumulative effect or whatever as more people get sent home. Or dead, missembered, and everything else like that. But that's probably part of the reason why they're trying to get rid of that mentality that Ukrainians are not just going to let this happen. As soon as they're going to do everything to prevent, them being subjugated and enslaved, But in this ideology, this people always have this superiority complex, whatever, this racist complex, whatever. And so they just naturally think because of who they are, they're better than them. And so it's okay to kill, maim, destroy, rape, pillage, steal, from your neighbor. That being said, about looting and stealing, what Russia's doing, I think it's a good idea to, like any kind of store, electronic stores and stuff like that, or your valuable goods, hard decisions need to be made. Like 18-wheelers, that kind of trucks need to load up all the valuable goods and get it past the other side of the Dnieper and to Lviv and stuff like that. As they approach within 50 miles, 25 miles, whatever kilometers, 100 kilometers or something. I think it's just, but the town has to do that. They have to remove every valuable thing, and that just get the people out. That's I guess maybe in a perfect world, even getting people out is difficult, but um, get as much of that stuff out of there as possible. So they have nothing to steal. You deprive them even more, stuff like that. And actually, be food, oil, anything they could utilize. So obviously ammo, and obviously that'd be the first ammo, fuel, and food, I guess in that order. And so when they approach, you would take the food that's in the stores and you would already ration it out, and you would just need to hide that, I'm talking about, so they can't have access to it. I was thinking even like water and fuel, decentralize that. That's another story. But you don't, so the food is already distributed out, and so you guys sort of give up the capitalist structure as the approach, and go to a rational system for the people who stay. All the people that can't fight, are already gone, so you need less food. And as sacrifices need to be made, that now, as the economy is no longer viable as the approach, and now you got to deprive them of that food if the town gets overtaken, and that food gets distributed to all the people that are fighting, and that store owner or whatever, that becomes like the quartermaster of any food coming in, could distribute it out accordingly or whatever. So nothing of valuable is given to them, because that's what they're doing, taking like refrigerators and shit like that. I don't know, selling it to Belarus, I guess. It's not really all that rich of a country, so everything's internal. Um, their own ecosystem, or lack of thereof, right? Because I think I saw one thing that they're interested in that area just outside of Donetsk and Luhansk, that's has big oil reserve underneath. They say it's one of the biggest oil reserves. Everybody say whenever there's new oil reserves, like it's the biggest in the world. It's pretty fucking big. They say it's bigger than the Middle East and everything. So there's a lot of oil there, whatever. So that's what the Russians are really after: money. So I was like, how is Ukraine going to be able to pay back all this, just the land? How does this war make sense? Well, it sort of makes sense. Like, you kill more people, there's less money you have to pay people, less mouths you have to feed, um, and you steal all the oil. More money goes funneled into a few people. Makes sense, simplistically. Just looking at the map here. Oh yeah. I guess as they approach, you gotta sort of assume that the town is going to be obliterated, right? And especially some of these other towns like Odessa. Um, there's more established towns. I mean, there's more established cities that have been there for a long time, that have a lot of artwork. All the art should be removed. Um, Something like the monuments from, that movie and that unit in World War II. That if it's like a cultural significant structure and has architecture you want to preserve, you take a camera, AK camera, you make a couple passes from different angles, so you have like a 3D representation just in case it gets obliterated, which if it's close it's going to get obliterated. You have to assume that it's already going to be obliterated, be taken, destroyed, never have again. I'm talking about, it's just the only way you have to think about it, so it has to be documented and recorded, and preserved. And so you at least want to have like a photo of it, and any kind of like statues. You're gonna have to make the hard choice of actually removing them, and some of them are non-removable. So I'm thinking, like, you can't repair that. I mean, if you're gonna have to package it up, and you have to make that cut, you know, put down a truck and ship it out, and it kind of like inlaid frescoes, and like what I think what the Russians did, or what the Germans did, the Nazis, they took The Rose Room? No, no, no. They took the Amber Room out of the Palace of Versailles back to Berlin, and then Russia took that from Berlin, and now it's in Moscow. You know, that kind of thing, because they wanted to preserve it, whatever. That, you know, that's the inverse of what you want to have happen. So you want to take all that down and have a unit. You might even want to have international help actually to help you make a good photo reproduction at the very least. And then more time you have, make that hard decision to cart it up and take it away as much of the building as you possibly can, the important parts of it, because those towns that are just raised, gone, you know, just like I keep seeing Odessa and the ornate stuff over there. It's just like the only way to preserve it is to get it out of harm's way. So as they approach, not only do they remove all the valuables, that's part of the valuables, that's a culture, they want to destroy you culturally, and and you know, and the population depopulate it, you know, have you forcibly removed and recolonize other parts of Russia. And I think some of those people who are getting recolonized, they're not getting recolonized, they're being killed, you know. They just don't trust them, you know. So there's no giving up. You got to preserve what you have and fight, because giving up is death, you know what I'm saying? So monuments, man, that kind of thing. Russia, not Russia, Ukrainians, man. Ukrainian cultural Ukrainians, man. Don't repeat the acronym. Oh yeah, so you know, Putin is trying to conscript up to 100, like over 100,000 people. They said 60,000. One number was over 100,000. That's the equal to the amount. You know, what was the initial invasion? And I was looking at that number of like, why would you tell people the amount of people recruiting? Like, why would Russia ever tell the truth? It's just like, you know, are they going to give up on Kyiv? Well, for now. But does he want Kyiv? Yeah, he wants the whole country, you know, and more. You don't tell the enemy, you know, what you're going to do. You know what I'm saying? You just don't. And you keep your hands close the last possible moment before they could react, you know? And so I think it's just all, but then if you get in, you know, but then again, I'm not one of those people, you know, just involved in all that bullshit, you know, so try to keep all that bullshit as arm's length and everything. So seen it, done it, you know, there's a lot of good people out there. I'd rather deal with them, you know what I'm saying? So I think the number is closer to not 100,000 or 130, 60. I think he wants this magic ratio that everybody keeps talking about. That it's a 3-to-1. You know, we all got there in the Napoleonic War. I mean, it's kind of simple, but it's my thinking. Like he wants that. Probably even pushing to like 500,000, 500,000, and maybe eventually he'll reach that. So I would more count on it gradually being increased at that level. 3 times what is current. I mean, it might push for like 500,000, but you might only get 300K. Because everybody that goes down, so what, right? Just fill that up with another person. Say, so you got to feed a rolling number of 250, or a rolling number of like 200,000. So 10 people, 10,000 get wiped out, put another 10,000, you know what I'm saying? Okay. So you don't actually have to feed all that many people in combat, but you just keep recruiting, keep replacing it, that kind of thing. But the way I see it, whatever he does do, I see it being way above it already is, or has already increased beyond 150,000. That he's trying to recruit. I think we're so fixated on these numbers though, because you don't exactly know how much people buy into it and what's actuality. You don't want to get over like some false accuracy about it's exactly 3 to 1 or whatever. But I think in some aspects, it has people do build their own decisions on that rationale. But to get these things, to get these defensive ratios, you actually have to have a defense where you would have defended a position that enables a 3 to 1 ratio. You just don't say, well, it's their territory and everything else like that. You want to do everything in addition to just being your territory. Like when the Russians were digging around that airport, they just sort of dug here, dug there, and just a little bit of the, the truck or the tank was protected by the berm. It's not really what you want to do. You want to make sure like just the tank, the tour of the tank is showing. So you can't shoot the bottom part of the tank. So when you're digging your fortified position for the tank, that all you have is that turret, and it could just the deflection of the it could just traverse. It could just deflect like that, near the elevation of the gun. And then you have another secondary firing position, and then tertiary, and so on and so forth. But you don't know if you're going to use your secondary, so you do as many as you can. Your first firing position for the tank, the others, your set of trenches and everything. So, and then each of that you get your 3 to 1 as you give up ground, cause as much damage as possible, and they pull back to your secondary. Saying it would be nice if you go back, whatever, to each one, but you just don't know which one you're going to be utilized, but you want to make sure you get the 3 to 1, put live trees on your tanks, whatever, to camouflage it, and for IR, infrared or whatever, blend it in so that you break up the outline so we don't know what they're shooting at, that kind of thing too, on top of that. So not only is it will help you from air bursting, whatever, now you're camouflaging it, and then you have the cover from the trenches. So you want to keep digging, never stop digging. You just don't know what you're going to be utilizing. So you don't want to be like the Russians. Oh, well, dig in and then a little bit, they're technically dug in, you want to be completely dug in. Well, you get the 3 to 1, talk about this, not, okay, well, we have 3 to 1, we're, since it's our, make sure every time you engage that you're utilizing as much as that known figure as possible. And granted, it's not exactly 3 to 1, but we have that advantage. So tanks are just showing just a little bit, and overhead protection, and as much where they're coming towards. So you're attacking, cause as much damage as you can, pulling back. So you could the next 3-to-1 ratio set of defenses and trenches. You could cause more damage and figuring out exactly what you're dealing with, and take as many tanks as possible while preserving your own, and then you're ready for the counterattack. I guess, yeah, with the trees, you just keep them alive a little bit longer by taking the roots and everything, wrapping them in burlap bags, that kind of thing, and then put those other kind of netting on top of that, can really break it up, so there's no way it'll just look like a live tree right there, like fully blended in. You know what I'm saying? Totally obscure, where that firing position is and how much is showing. Yeah, so grocery stores need to ration out food as they approach no food when they get there. All the valuables. You just don't know which one of the firing positions will be utilized. So keep building them, lines of defense, giving, ground or whatever. And of course, some places will hold, but you need to find out what places are going to hold. You don't want to assume every place is going to hold, and place holds, and then you reinforce it. Use limited heavy equipment in the initial stages. Do not sacrifice your heavy equipment because that's when it's going to be the most chaotic and it'll probably cause most damage to your heavy equipment. Use your infantry and your lighter in a smattering of intermix with the infantry to absorb below. Smattering. And then you could be like Rommel and a couple more heavy equipment where where that needs to go, but you have your bulk in the rear. Yeah, absorb the blow, and just tell the infantry if they get caught behind the lines. It's not the greatest thing, but you can make your way back, the territory before the forward line gets consolidated. So you could make it back to the lines to attack again, so you get caught behind. Depends. So, of course, as much damage as possible, whatever. So it's gonna happen if you have all your infantry forward or whatever, right? Absorbing the blow. But okay, well now it's time to go back to the second line and third line of defense, whatever. So you go through the lines, causing damage on your way to the next series of defenses, whatever. That's to be expected. And you're sacrificing lives doing that more so than you would if you have all the heavy equipment. So it's really difficult to state it, but I have to, because you need to know exactly this new general, how he's playing out, what he has coordinated, and you need to take out and preserve your equipment and take out their equipment, which is possible, and take it back to the rear. And my thinking about this new general, most people have like these. You see the same thing being repeated and everything, but honestly, I think he's just a reflection of what the Russian mentality of war is, other than any kind of capability, and he's a figurehead. He leans more towards that because he was in place at a time of when they destroyed Syria and Aleppo, right? So it could have been any other general, but they would have done the same thing. But he has this what's the word, perception of being whatever, being cutthroat, sadistic or whatever, and they're more utilizing that. But it's what any other Russian general, given that time and place, would have done if they were in charge of the war at that time. So that general is just a reflection of what Putin wanted. So he's a reflection of what Putin wanted. Um, and if another general was there, he basically would have done the same thing because that's what Putin wanted, you know. And through trial and error, they realized this is what they need to do to Syria, Aleppo, whatever. And he just happened to be the general. And that's my thinking. He just happened to be the general's reflection of what the Russian mentality of war, how to win current war is, you know. So I don't think it's any kind of magical ability that he has or whatever. But like I said, I'm very conservative of how I want to state that, you know, see what you're fighting first and see how much he adjusts or whatever. I mean, how much they adapted and learned from the fight. But honestly, I don't really think it's much of anything. I just think this happened to be there. So just keep hearing the same stuff. I guess I don't know. Yeah, just like I stated, a couple months ago, I would have looked at this whole differently. Minimal casualties, uh, but now I'm just like, you have to be focused on. Like I don't want to look at it like that. I have to focus on to win and making sure that everything is there, so you have the ability to win. You know, and you know, sacrificing more infantry right now causes much damage and absorbent below to preserve that infantry. We preserve that heavier equipment later on, and see how much equipment you could add in more equipment later on, because if the equipment's already destroyed, you can't add in that equipment. But if you have intermixed with armored personnel carriers and tanks or whatever, a tank here, a tank there, you know, spread out, and then to, you know, force multiply your infantry, it's going to take most of the blow, and you could, you know, move more there. But if it's already gone, you can't really move. So that's what I'm saying. Like, absorb it, preserve, bring it to the rear. Okay, I guess next thing I want to get into is, I'm hesitantly about these things. I'm gonna see how much, you know, are relevant and are not relevant. My current thinking is to move the dangers on your flank to take back, you know, around, what's that town? I just want to make sure I get it correct. Right at the where Crimea is. You know, so you have Odessa right there. So just want to see what that town is. It's gonna take a while to update. Zooming in here. Of course, it's in Russian. Why would it not be in Russian? I guess to take Kherson back and up to the Dnieper, you want to. Hey, what's up? USMC. You want to take out Transsedia? Simplify. Simplify. You take out Transsedia for the Moldavians. I know it's like you don't want to expand it, but it's the only way to really do it, because you don't know. I don't know. Oh, that's the Nightbot. Nightbot did that. Um, there's some algorithms that he did all caps. Um, just type it in lowercase, I suppose. One Marine 0341 in direct fire. I know 31s, assaultments, is chosen to be the never mind, I'm not getting into it. You take out Transsedia, you protect your flank while you're going down to Kherson, and then that way the Moldavians, will my rank, I don't know, like I was actually did some ROTC too after I got out. How many crayons? I don't know. Pay me enough. I would never eat crayons. I think I don't like the taste of them. I figured that out in third grade. So only smart Marines eat crayons, man. I'm not a smart Marine. But in the infantry, right, you got this divergence of intellect. Smartest. See the people that score 30 on their ASLAB. You got people that score probably like they definitely scored than over 99 if they had the ability. If the test had that much, it's crazy. You see the biggest range of intelligence. Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah, I was definitely as I was reading. It shows me to know the complicated, weapon systems, whatever. It took me around to all the classes. Like here's this guy that could remember it. So, yeah, it did. It's just the choice is made for them, but I did decide to be a Marine. If worst comes to worst, because I have a degree and I'm getting advanced degree, I think after the advanced degree, I would like to be field commissioned up to up to maybe major, you know. But for me to, I have Paget's and everything. I have American Studies degree. Uh, it's bachelor's, yeah, bachelor's science. I'll get my master's pretty soon. I have master's education. I have a partial PhD education. Well, significant, much of a PhD education. But it's like I would have to be on like certain. I'll be hemmed in by certain medication. I could be up at the front, but I'll be limited by like 30 days, and I ain't moving anywhere quick. So I'll be. I'm good for an hour or two. So I probably have to be like Overwatch, Sniper, or something like that. I'm okay. I would have to finish those classes and everything. Um, oh no, no, I was enlisted, but I had some RTC. Anyway, so getting back to Transsedia. I'm just gonna hide chat because I'm being distracted real quickly. You should join the Marines. Go for it. Do it. The recruiters usually find you, man. They're aggressive. Marine Corps is aggressive. I don't think Marines accept people with green cards. I mean, that'd be really rare. I mean, they do, but it'd be people that have like some kind of like really good ability. Oh, you need a green card. I mean, because it'll be a waiver. They don't really like waivers, the Marines. So I don't really recall a Marine. I heard of them, but they're like when I did run across them, they're like freakishly talented in some area. Marine with a green card. It's like a Marine that's has skin color. Like there's some freakish ability about them. At least when I was in, I still like that. Um, you could train. You could train to eat Koreans. But anyway, so you could train whatever you want to set your heart to. You could do that. You could do whatever you set your mind to. If that's Can I 360 no scope some dude? You give me a controller, a good internet connection. I think I can. So I'm just gonna hide this out. No chat. So I remove chat. So again, you want to move into Transcedia, um, because it's too much of a threat and liability if you're trying to hold Kherson down and that to Dnieper. And people that attack there are now getting combat experience to hopefully to help with the counterattack down to the Dnieper. And then you hand that over to Moldavia, move that threat once and for all, because that will be a continuing threat if this war keeps going on, that they could launch attacks from there. So you might as well just deal with it. And the more desperate things are gone, the more of a chance that it's going to be utilized as an attack platform. So you're going to remove that before it becomes a threat. And then act down to the Dnieper, get Kherson, and then you could hold the Dnieper. And all that troops that now got their combat experience from taking Transcedia and took back Kherson and got that combat experience could now be used in the main attack and used maybe even for the counterattack over by Donetsk and Luhansk. So you want to defend where you know you could defend to that river and counterattack up to that river, whatever, and that free up that amount of forces. So you Transcedia, hand it over to Moldavia. Now you got that kind of experience to help with the counterattack to Dnieper around Kherson. And once you take back to the Dnieper and Kherson, you could move, you'll free up a significant amount of those troops to go over towards the Luhansk. And like I said, like old Bradley vehicles and Hummers, there'll be all force multipliers. Just go ahead and send them to them because they're basically a tank at that point. You put a 20mm cannon on it, and like Bushmaster, is that what we're up to? Bushmaster 4, they said it go through 5 inches of armor, and a T-72 that's going to punch through them. So it's basically you get a couple good shots in. It takes care of a 50-year-old tank. Basically, anything, of these other cannons that to be able to put forward. There's a Russian cannon that's on the Hind or whatever. The Vulcan cannon that's is made in 1959, 1969, 1959. And there's the Russian equivalent to that that's on the Hind. But what's on the Warthog is the Vulcan cannon, and that's a tank killer, right? Warthog's tank killer, you can't give them Warthogs, right? But you can make another version of it. And everybody wants to talk about super, uber weapons or whatever, super weapons. If you could get a drone and put a Gatling gun on it, not Gatling, but if you could put a Vulcan 30 caliber cannon onto it, this is like a 50 cal. It's like a 30 cal, right? And for a Vulcan cannon, those are the miniguns, right? And not the newer ones. We have newer ones, right? I think it's like the Phalanx has a new updated ones, right? But you put the old one that's older than, it's just like 70 years old, right? At this point, on a drone with a gimbal, it's like a long range shotgun from a distance, because it says it's like 2,000 yards is the effective range, but if it's shooting up, right? But if it's up in the air, right? It's going to hit terminal velocity, and then it's just going to keep going that speed, right? So it's going to be a lot longer. The effective range is going to be a lot longer up in the sky. and you got a long reach shotgun that could take out tanks, right? And so you could be behind the lines a little bit, and that could just destroy any kind of convoys or whatever, and just like a 2 second burst, and that's why you want to have the gimbal, the natural shaking and of vibration of the gun, and everything else would spread out your shots, whatever, take out that tank, so you don't have to spray all around or whatever. But you want to make it as accurate as possible and weight it. The drone probably have the ammo along the fuselage, right? So when it depletes, it's still balanced, and the gimbal is what you want to make sure it's balanced. You could probably have it flying within a day or two, whatever. I mean, just throw it up there, and then you have to kind of trial and error, I mean, it's bolted on, and what is it going to be, half a ton? It's 200 pounds, 250 pounds, and then however much ammo will double that, 500 pounds, half a ton, triple that, up to 1,000 pounds. So it all depends, and I balancing it, but it's really like a simple rudimentary warthog, and if you had a dozen of those, destroy, like, handle whatever comes at you. 100 of them, it probably wouldn't work. But you gotta put them, but you gotta keep flying and put it on, and then have the gimbal up there, the gyroscope or whatever that will make it stable, because it'd be like a dive bomber, right? It'll come down, and then fire it, and all, and then you just want that shot to be perfectly adjusted so the recoil just pushes it back, and if it's not balanced and centered correctly, it's going to pull everything over, to right or left, or whatever. So everything, not only does it have to be balanced, and the only way you could do that is by having a a gimbal there that could pull it all backwards. So it would have to be like line of fire, and you fly in, and take out the whole column if they want to be dumb enough to be in a column again, whatever. But either way, it's when you have a drone, it takes out one and the other. But this way now, you basically have 60,000 rounds. I mean, 6,000 rounds a minute. And if you fire a 2 second burst, you have 30 shots, and you put 1,200 rounds. Now you have over 100 shots, so to speak, whatever. So you can do a lot of damage, especially if it's lightly armored, and when you attack a tank from top, it's destroying it. There's just no way. And the closer you get, the accurate it is, but you could definitely do damage from afar. So Vulcan cannons, or the equivalent of the Russian 30 caliber. So that is a game changer weapon. I would probably get on that. But all these I mean, obviously you want a M1 tank, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I mean, so you gotta think, well, what is the most mobile, most destructive weapon you could do? The worst it'd be, if it were be where you need to be and where it needs to be at that time and place. Vulcan cannon on a drum with a gimbal, and as many cannons as you can in any kind of carriage as you can, self-propelled. Bushmasters that there's a 20 caliber. I'm not sure what it's up to, but all the old style auto cannons, like Bradley fighting vehicles, whatever, the cannons on top, and some of them come with the Vulcan cannon. So that's just as good as a tank, basically, because right now you can basically just say, the reflective armor is just pointless, so what's the point of putting these very complex, tanks out there if, a Jammer could take it out, and what you're really trying to do a lot of these firefights to stop, small arms and medium caliber and heavier caliber machine guns. So as long as it takes care of heavier machine guns, you're good. So, armored personnel carriers, armored trucks, even, they could haul stuff back and forth, whatever, just on the secondary where it's contested and stuff like that, so you just keep putting in, armored trucks, along with everything else. Just keep putting in, because, the Defense Production Act, all of our stuff we have in storage, Bradleys and the up armored Hummers, this every country should Defense Production Acts, like their newest shit, so they have that in their inventory and everything that's collecting dust. Just give it to Ukraine and then make it serviceable or whatever. Do a few tweaks or whatever, and to get it up and going or whatever, because it's probably in storage, needs oil change. Well, we'll probably do all the oil changing and stuff like that. Just give it to Ukraine, and then when we have all our new shit, all our high tech stuff will be our 20-year-old stuff will now be our backup instead of like our 50-year-old stuff, So defense production, have those gears moving, and because it's really not all very technological war. It's on the ground at least, But I think that's everything. But like I said, destroys many complex equipment in the very beginning as fast as possible, so they're not have any kind of combat effectiveness. So they have the combat effectiveness as short a period as possible. Russians will have their stuff destroyed as quick as possible, so their combat effectiveness and the death and destruction they could have is eliminated. And so you're preserving your force. So it's a wartime that is going forward. I mean, it's kind of obvious, but I think in the very beginning is where you got to be very aggressive, and where you want to make those raids, and was the best time to have the best territory and maneuverability to make those raids. And I guess even one more thing, like when they're advancing, you want to blow up the bridges and everything. But historically, time tested way to get someone across the bridge and entrap an enemy is let them cross, usually about half, so you could destroy half and then the other. But before they even approach, I've seen a couple times it blow before they even get there, and that's what you want to do a good portion of the time. But if it's in the middle of a battle, you want as much as you could handle to cutting in half. So 20, 10%, whatever amount that town can handle. And then while they're on the bridge, you have it all rigged already, blowing stuff up on the bridge. I know it's a perfect case scenario or whatever, but that's what you want to do. So you take some that's on the track, on the bridge. I know it's perfect scenario or whatever, and then whatever is passed, you take care of that, and then all you have left is what didn't make across the bridge, but they're blowing it before and then holding it outside, but can you cause some damage, and then you have 3 or 4 tanks, even it's just or 1 tank, or maybe even 5 or a dozen stuff you could handle or whatever, and the rest of the 30, 40 whatever vehicles are behind there. I know, but it's a really difficult decision to make because you don't know how much you can handle and what happens if you allow too much in. So it's really case by case basis, whatever. But again, it's a perfect scenario, but I'll just throw that out there. But what you could take back to the rear, get those vehicles and everything. So I mean, it all depends. But I think the primary goal is to take as much stuff out as possible in the very beginning, so it can't be utilized. Because if you just try to slowly attrit, you don't want to get into this slow attrit thing. That's what Russia wants, because they'll win that. That slow, keep feeding people, and you want to completely destroy initially. It causes as much damage to men and material and heavy equipment as possible. So those people will be demoralized, because if they have this slow victory, whatever, more people would, it would just, more people you're gonna have to deal with. The mentality is gonna be like, well, I'll fight, it's all about. So Russia will be more behind, the war than their propaganda will have some kind of basis. And that's why, taking out the ships as soon as the war is initiated or whatever you cause the most damage, because now their supplies that they were going to put into the war just be annihilated in the very beginning scene, and they won't be adjusted, and it was pushed forward to be gone or whatever. So it's like you're asking, or I'm asking, talk about the, something very it's precarious, but I know the Europeans could adjust to it, because if you put too much forward there, what's going to be left to defend, you know? And if you don't put enough there, you're going to lose too much territory. So there's places where you could defend, places where you could give up. So it has to be very dynamic, very adaptive, way beyond what I just stated or whatever. But I know that much. Be aggressive, take as much equipment out, and make sure you utilizing that 3-to-1, using that ratio as much as possibly, as you letting Russians have a certain amount of territories. You figure out where you could attack back, and even some cases you want to counterattack and probe, where they're weakest at. You don't want to wait and see where you're the weakest at. You want to see what they're weakest at. I was going to initially state that also, the rating, whatever, probe out there. If you could take out, if you need a town, it's going to be strategic. You need to hold that town, attack. Like right now, like Mariupol, they already counterattacked back into it and supplied it. The best, shortest distance you're going to have right now is counterattack again, resupplying it again right now. I'm talking about. So I don't know how much of a risk, and I was going to state that, but it's a risk reward thing. Like you're going to lose more in the process or gain more, because it can hold out. But what is the number that could hold on to it? Is 15,000 more than enough to hold on to it? But now you got to feed and supply those 15,000 people. Is 5,000 good? Is 500 good? I'm talking about. Is maybe some number between, what they put in there, 500 and 5,000, a few more thousand, where, you could supply, feed that amount of number. So it's just something that's beyond what I know about, as the best amount of people you could put into Mariupol. And what is the sacrifices that you want to make to get those people in there, what I'm saying? So, but I do think that avenue should be further explored or whatever. And the best time to do it is right now, even more than the 500 that they were able to counterattack back in. But, yeah, you'll gotta see. But, yeah, I think that's everything. Autocannons on anti-personnel carriers, and the drone with the Vulcan cannon. Look into that and make it happen. Taking as much equipment in the very beginning stages of the next phase, so that lava flow is all disrupted, and you have your own natural force coming back at them. It's more aggressive and violent. All right. I think that's everything. There's a lot of good experts out there, and I'm the one trying to absorb into it. But there's a few things that I'm putting forward. Hopefully, better minds could look at the viability of what I'm stating in and have a consensus on it, because these things are very complex, and they really need to further what I state, because that's our strength. Their strength is one person, and perception of people that's knowing what's going on. And our strength is having a lot of minds on brainstorming, putting their intelligence and pulling their intelligence together. We should utilize that. All right. So, Slavic Ukraine. Is that how you pronounce it? Glorious Ukraine. Glory to heroes. All right. We got this. Good Friday. Happy Bunny. Happy Bunny Day. Come Easter. Peace.